Hello everyone, Eric Kunzdorf here from Jacksonville University, and the purpose of this video is to show how you can produce a very simple digital portfolio for submission to our admissions process in the Division of Visual Arts at Jacksonville University. And to start with, what you're going to want to get is you're going to want to have a text editor that lets you include images. And you're going to want to have the images themselves. So I'll say a couple of words about that. Basically, you want between 10 and 20 images that are all good quality images, not blurry, not off-center, not keystone, or not distorted in any way. You want to have those organized in a folder. You want to keep those organized in a folder. I've got 10 of these, and they can be various sizes. The largest I think is about 1600 by 2400. And I think the smallest is 700 by 864. So somewhere around in there, just so that they make a good size on the page. Okay. Now in your text editor, what you're going to want to do is type your name and of course the portfolio. That's what it is. And I put the date because I'm a little bit compulsive in that regard. And contact information, including your name and your address and telephone number and email address. And then you're going to want an artist statement. And we're calling for an artist statement of about 150 to 300 words. This is a little bit long. And also a statement if you've got work online, or even if you've got a portfolio online, which you can submit in lieu of this digital portfolio. You want to put the link to the Vimeo or to YouTube or to wherever you've got work online, put that here, and I include it with the artist statement. And then lastly, you're going to want to have even if your work is online, you're going to want to have some kind of image list or slide list is what they used to call it. And it's going to the title of the work, the size, the width and height and depth by depth if it's a sculpture or ceramics or any sculpture at all, the medium, what you did it in, when you did it, and then also any other information. If you use software to put it together, what did you do? How did you do it? How was it printed? What awards did it win? If you've sold it to somebody, it's in somebody's collection, tell us that. Basically that's where you're going to want to put that information on there and include them in a list. Now I've got a numbered list in Word, and it corresponds almost exactly to the numbered list in my folder. I also have details, front and detail images and pieces images that I'm going to include as well. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do to start with is I want to pick an overall typeface. We don't care what it is as long as it's legible. Okay, so I'm going to use Arial because that's a good typeface. Some people like Helvetica, some people like Franklin Gothic, whatever. Just make sure that it is legible. Next, a basic type size is a good idea. I'm going to use 14 because that's going to be the text size that I'm going to have. I'm going to shrink my captions down quite a bit. Next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to set each one of these, I'm going to set up my different pages. So for the title and the contact information, that's going to be on a separate page. So I'm going to go to Insert, Break, Page Break. And that puts this on another page. I'm going to set this on another page as well. So I'll do that again. And I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut from here on out, which is Page Break, which is Command Return. Now for the image list, this is important. I'm going to change this. I'm going to take it off the numbered list. Now I've got some space in front of my space before each one of these lines. So I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to center everything because I like it to be. I want everything on this page to be centered from here on out because that's how I'm going to drop my images in. And before each one of these, I'm going to put another line, a carriage return. Okay, now I've got an extra line here that has an extra carriage return. I want to put that in. And there's Money Doll, Gizmo, Angry Mime, and Marie the Mime, which I'll put it like so. Now, like I said, I'm going to change the size here. I'm going to change them back to 12 points. That's going to work fine. You're going to find that each page is going to have its own image. So I'm going to go to Command Return, and I'm going to put a carriage return between each one of these. Oops. And the reason this is the best way to do it is that what it does is it keeps, when you make changes to one image, it doesn't affect the others and doesn't affect the images sliding around. Or if it does push the caption to the next page, that's okay. You can always go back and change it. Okay, now I'm going to start to format things once I've got everything set up, and I'm going to save my, I'm going to do a save as. I've got this organized in my folder. I'm just going to take that OO off of there and change the start. There we go. And we'll save it. All right, this is going to be centered, and it's going to be big. We're going to go about 24, and I'm going to use the Arial Black, which is a nice bold title typeface, and I'm going to drop this down the page, and I'm going to use my zoom out slider to see how this looks on the page. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my contact information, but my contact information I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to make this 18 points, make it a little larger, and I'm going to make it bold. Do the same thing for my artist statement, bold and 18 points. And same thing for this example, but I'm going to center it, and I might even drop it down a little bit. And I'm going to make it 18 points bold. I can make this a style if I wanted to, but that just takes up too much time. No, not bold italic, just bold. There we go. All right, now this text, it's a good idea to have a little bit of white space between them because this is a digital portfolio and we don't want this to all blend together. So I'm going to go to layout and I'm going to change my space before. I'm going to give it 12 points. That's a decent, it's a little bit much, but it's better to have too much than too little. All right, so now once we've done that, we're ready to start dropping in images. And this is literally a drag and drop operation, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to grab my first image and I'm going to drop it in and see, you can see the cursor light up where it's going to go. Now look there, it's coming in too large. So I'm just going to shrink this. And the nice thing about by being centered, everything goes quite nicely. Okay, so we'll do that. You can also change picture formats if you want, but we're not going to. We shouldn't have to do all that much. All right, so I'm going to go back, pull this over, and scroll down. And Arts on the River. This is a pretty good example image because it's a little wider than it is tall. So I'm going to click on the left side of my image, and I'm going to hit Return and drop this down. Okay, so it's not quite right in the center of the image, but not quite in the center of the page. You want to have a little bit more space above than below it. We'll do this for Arabesque, and I'm going to do this for each image. I think I may have missed. Sometimes that happens. Yep, I missed. So if that happens, I'll just delete it. Come back in and do it. I actually dropped it below, right there. That's the way we want it. Now, if the carriage return drops off the page, then you just change this until you just change the size until it works. Drop that in there. Pull that in a little more. There. You want to see that happen. Okay, we'll do this for each one of these images, and then after this next one, we'll get into a detail and show you how that goes. Okay, so, whoops, not quite. There we go. No, not yet. One more. There we go. Okay, so there it shows up. Now, this is a detail image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my front image and put it in first, and I'm going to shrink it down probably pretty much too much. Then I'm going to take my detail image and drop it in right beside it. And obviously that's too big, but now we'll shrink it down, and I'm going to keep shrinking it until it pops into the next page, and I want to get it just like that. That's looking pretty good. They're both the same size, and I think that looks great. So I'm going to drop this down. Now, one of the nice things, I can zoom out, and I can use that zoom out to line up my images and see if I've got about the same amount of space between. That looks pretty good. All right, so that's good. So we'll continue on. Now this next 3D print, this by the way is a 3D print that I've painted. I've printed out and smoothed and painted, and that's why that's there. I'll move this over. I'm working in this small video capture window, so it makes it kind of tough. All right, so now I'm going to do the money doll. Here's the main image. And I'm going to shrink it down really far. But in this case, I'm going to put an extra carriage return in, and I'm going to put the assembly image below it. And we'll drop that down like so. And I'll increase the size of the image. Because remember, what we're doing here, too far, there we go. What we're doing here is we're trying to make, you want to highlight your work. You want your work to look as good as you possibly can, because we make these decisions, on emissions and on scholarship information based on these portfolios, as well as if you show up at our portfolio day, we like to talk to you and see, see what your motivations are, and make decisions on admissions and on scholarships and on placement into our program. So, all right, so the last two images, see if I can pop those in without moving this around. I'll do that one more time. And there we go. Okay, so basically that's what we've got. So now I've got my portfolio, and if I've taken the time and lined everything up ahead of time, I have a pretty good portfolio. And so in the next video, we're going to talk about how to convert this to a PDF that you can email to us so that we can look at your work.